It's a big day here at 24/7 Sports. We have a new top 247 ranking to reveal. 4 new 5-stars and a major shakeup in the top 10. Who rose over 50 spots and who went from 4-star to the number 6 player in the nation? We've got the answers ahead. Plus, the number 1 quarterback and number 1 player in the class of 2025 are taking visits this weekend. Steve Wiltfong will tell you where they're headed. All of that and more as the college football recruiting show starts right now. Alongside Cooper Patagna, I am Emily Proud. It's a big day here. We just keep saying it. It's why I got the gold jacket. We are ready. We've got the rankings in our hands. I'm not going to show you yet, but we are about to reveal it. First, a reminder to hit the like button on this video so we know that you're watching, and also subscribe to the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel so you can be a part of the chat. We're going to answer some of your questions, so make sure and go ahead and submit them. But we're going to do what we always do on this show, and that's start with the headlines. The number 1 quarterback in the class of 2025 has locked in a visit this weekend to LSU. That's Bryce Underwood. Now, he went to Penn State and Colorado last month and will actually be making his second trip to Baton Rouge. Coop, he's the number 1 quarterback for what reason?
For good reason. Last 21 games, 21-0 as a starter. 21 touchdowns this year, only 1 interception. You mentioned Penn State, Colorado, LSU in a good place with Bryce Underwood. This would be a big one. They got Colin Hurley in the class of 2024. 2025, and you can get Bryce Underwood. They're in a great spot.
Let's go back to 2024. That's 5-star defensive lineman Aydin Breland will make his college choice live right here on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. Tune in to #CommitHQ this Saturday at 2:30 Eastern, and it looks like it's between Miami, Georgia, and Oregon. What kind of prospect are these schools battling for?
Well, this is a game changer, somebody that we have ranked inside the top 32, so we think one day he could potentially be a first-round NFL draft choice. You can see right here on the tape a guy that can affect the game a lot of different ways. He's gotten better and better the more we've seen him. Big fan of Aydin Breland, and that's why Georgia and Miami, they're going way out of their footprint to try to pull in a player like him.
And today is one of my favorite days here at 24/7 Sports because I don't have to put in any of the work, but I get to give you all the great news. We are releasing our 2024 rankings update. We'll break down the new list of 5-stars right here on this show in minutes. Coop, you and the rankings team have been hard at work getting this ready. So what goes into a day like today?
A lot of it. I got to give a lot of credit to my friend Andrew Ivins, who will be joining us here in a second. Gabe Brooks, Hudson Standish, and the rest of our team at 24/7 Sports. But, you know, this is a big update for us because it highlights the first 4 to 6 games of the high school season that we can dive into the senior tape. A couple more updates left, one in December and then another one finally in February to kind of highlight the postseason all-star schedule. So a big one in terms of the update, and we're getting closer and closer to the finish line.
Well, let's do it. Let's waste no more time and welcome in the man leading the rankings team. It's our 24/7 Sports Director of Scouting, the aforementioned Andrew Ivins. Andrew, it's certainly an exciting day. Brings a lot of mixed emotions and, of course, questions. People want to know why 32 5-stars? Why are we releasing this now? Is this the final product? You know we love transparency when it comes to this process, so break it down for us. What do we need to know about what's happening today?
Well, Cooper brought up the senior seasons, right? I think it's so easy to lose track of all these guys that are supposed to make an impact on Saturdays at some point here in the near future. We're in an era where recruiting classes are full in August before preseason camp starts. So while others have turned the page to 2025 for us, these senior seasons are huge. I mean, think about it. We're talking about 16, 17, 18-year-olds. They make huge physical and mental transformations. These first 6, 7 games are very key to the evaluation process. And over the past 2 months, our team of analysts around the country have not only been to games, right, scouted these guys in person, but we've also poured through the tape. We've audited recruiting classes, and there's a lot of changes, right? A lot has guys have gone up the board, guys have gone down the board, and why are senior seasons important? Let's C.J. Stroud, kind of one of the top rookies right now in the NFL. As a junior, 17 touchdown passes. As a senior, 47 touchdown passes, right? So he took a big step forward. Jalen Carter, one of the top interior pass rushers in the league. Go back to his junior tape. 90% of it, he's playing fullback and tight end, right? Not a ton of him playing defense. So it's good to get new context. Cooper mentioned it. We're going to have 2 more updates here, one right before the early signing period, and then we're going to get the All-Star games, and that's the best on the best, and then we'll finalize things right before that February's traditional National Signing Day. So exciting time and more movement to come.
Yeah, we like to say this is not written in Sharpie. It is fluid. Things will continue to change as they already have over the last few months. But let's just waste no more time and go ahead and bring you the 5 stars. The full rankings will be up on the website, 247sports.com soon. But here are the 5 stars, 32 through 26. We've got 2 new additions in this range. In at 30, Jordan Seaton becomes the second 5-star offensive tackle. We also have our first and only tight end in the group in Penn State commit Luke Reynolds. He moved up 20 spots there to 29. Let's show you 25 through 20, the 5 stars. A little shuffling here. No major changes really, though, in this group. Ohio State boasting 2 5 stars in this range. They have 4 total in their number 2 class. But, Coop, what stands out about those guys we just presented?
I think you mentioned the lone tight end, right? I mean, you talk about Luke Reynolds committed to Penn State, and I think I speak for Andrew and the rest of our group here at 247 Sports. We have had a scouting crush on Luke Reynolds for quite some time, the tight end out of Connecticut. I think with him, 6'4 1/4, 225 pounds. He ran in the mid 4.5s, but you get around him, and we got the opportunity to be around him in California at the Elite 11, which is a quarterback event. But this guy just kept showing up. And you look at the NFL, you look at the patterns in the draft, 16 tight ends taken in the NFL draft in 2023. They all had multi-sport backgrounds at the position. Luke Reynolds, a very good basketball player as well. This guy continues to show up. I love what he does on the defensive side of the ball as well, playing safety. So dynamic athlete. I think Penn State's got a really, really special prospect here.
All of this based on the NFL draft. You just continue to see the stock and tight ends rise. Let's keep it moving and show you 19 through 11. Now we're getting into some quarterbacks. Alabama commit Julian Sayin keeping his 5-star status. But we have a brand new addition. Up 27 spots to number 16 is Florida commit DJ Lagway. He is one of our biggest risers. Andrew, please explain why.
Well, I think he might be the most physically gifted quarterback in the 2024 cycle. 6'3", 230 pounds. He could play college baseball if he wanted to, and that shows up in his arm. I mean, he lets it rip. Look, the past 2 seasons, right, coming into this senior year, DJ Lagway was just 10-10, completing less than 60% of his passes. We wanted to see if he would take a step forward as a passer here as a senior, and he has. He's completed over 70%, 36 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions. He's ran for over 500 yards, 5 more scores, and more importantly, he's got the Willis Wildcats, that's with a K, off to a 7-0 start. NFL executives drooled over Anthony Richardson. They also drooled over Josh Allen, big frame mobile quarterbacks that can let it rip. We are drooling over DJ Lagway.
As are the fans down in the swamp, too. They are excited to get this guy as their quarterback. Let's go ahead and break down the top 10 one by one, starting with number 10 out of Alabama, the number 1 edge in the class, Jordan Ross. He is committed to Tennessee.
I know you're excited about this one, Emily. This is a guy that we kind of took a shot on. We saw him in Atlanta kind of in the beginning of the year. He blew up that combine, ran a 4.78, super long, 80-plus inch wingspan. He has just gotten better and better, and you want to see ascending players. I think this is a guy we had some question marks about his frame. Not anymore. He is bulked up. He's played well against the run, and in terms of getting to the passer, he kind of reminds us a little bit of Brian Burns, the All-Pro with the Carolina Panthers. So this is a dude right now. I have no idea how he got out of the state of Alabama, but if you're Josh Heupel, you got to be super excited about this dude.
And at number 9, we have a new top linebacker, up 7 spots out of the state of Texas. He is Jordan Ross, and he is Justin Williams, and he is committed to Georgia.
Yeah, he's a freak athlete, right? So Sammy Brown, the Clemson commit, was our number 1 linebacker. We still love him, but Justin Williams leapfrogs him in the rankings, and I just think we came to the consensus that, hey, he might have a higher ceiling. This is a guy that went 4.4 on the lasers in the 40-yard dash back in March at over 200 pounds. He's a former safety, and you want to move your defenders forward and closer to the ball. I think his ability to close gaps and the snap of a finger is so unique in this class. He's going to be excellent at spying the quarterback at the next level. You see the need for that every Saturday when you watch college football. So we're big fans of Justin Williams, another guy where the arrow is pointing up.
Coming in at number 8, another new addition to the top 10, up 9 spots out of Alabama, wide receiver Cameron Coleman. He is committed to Texas A&M.
Another Alabama guy here, and we're talking about freaks. This guy is a super freak, 6'3.5", 180 pounds plus, 4.48 on the lasers. The name that kind of comes up when you watch him, George Pickens. I think he can do a lot of different things, but I love his ability to play above the rim. I love the ball skills as well. It gives you a little run after catch ability. He is a big physical target. You add him with a guy like Terry Bussey, another 5-star at Texas A&M, and then Draylen Miller as well. I mean, Jimbo Fisher, Bobby Petrino, I know they need to get that offense pumping, but this is the type of guy that can really change your offense.
A lot of wide receivers deemed 5 stars. At number 7, yet another big riser, up 14 spots to make his debut in the top 10 out of the state of Illinois, defensive lineman Justin Scott. He is currently committed to Ohio State.
Emily, he's a functional big man, getting reps on both sides of the ball and just moving people out of the way. I think if we listed Justin Scott as an offensive tackle or as an offensive guard, he'd probably be a top 100 prospect for us. But he's going to play defense there in Columbus or wherever he ends up, and he has a chance to make an impact. We dig into the profiles. He played basketball on the AAU circuit, just a guy that can move. He's got some power, and I still think there's some meat left on the bone. So we're big fans of Justin Scott, and Larry Scott, Ohio State's defensive line coach, is getting a good one.
And at number 6, one of our biggest risers and only new 5-star in the top 10, up 31 spots out of the state of Florida, defensive lineman LJ McCray, currently on the market.
I'm not sure anybody's had a better senior season than LJ McCray, and I got to give a lot of credit to Andrew Ivins. I mean, he kind of sniffed this out. So I'm earlier in the season, live evaluation. This is a guy that we have continued to kind of trend up throughout the evaluation process. You look at him, 6'6" plus, 6'9" wingspan. He's got 35-inch arms and 10.5-inch hands. You might be thinking, why is that important? Big old paws. He plays with power. You see right there his ability to get up the field vertically. He can play against a run, but he gives you some pass rushing upside as well. I love this kid. Whoever gets their hands on him, they are going to be in business. This guy's going to be a day one wreak of havoc on Saturdays.
Whew. All right, let's go to our top 5. In at number 5, Missouri native wide receiver Ryan Wingo. He too is uncommitted.
Yeah, we remain higher on Wingo than the rest of the recruiting industry, and I think we're confident in this evaluation and in this ranking. He has wide receiver 1 type of traits. Tracking football, our friends over there, they track this thing called the PAI score. He's got a perfect 5.0, but it's not just the track times and the straight line speed. I mean, Ryan can go get the football, and then when the football is in his hands, he's either going to run through people or he's going to run away from them. So we are big fans of Wingo. Interested to see where he ends up. You know, Missouri, Luther Burden, that certainly would intrigue me with him potentially being in that Tigers offense.
All right, the number 1 defensive lineman in the class is in at number 4. Also from the state of Missouri, Williams Winery. He is locked in with the home state school, Mizzou.
Probably not a prettier football prospect than Williams Winery in this class. In Missouri, Eli Drinkwitz, they got to be excited. 7-foot wingspan. In terms of everything that you're looking for, verified information, he checks all those boxes. I think the biggest thing with him throughout 7 games this season, he's only got 4 sacks. He's got to learn how to play through his frame, understand how to utilize his size and his strength. He is an elite level athlete, and the good thing for Missouri, I think it's a match made in heaven. He can get on the field early. I think reps are important for him, but he's a guy that is certainly going to have an early impact in the SEC.
All right, moving up a spot into the top 3, the number 1 corner in the 2024 class out of Florida, Ellis Robinson. He is committed to Georgia.
I watch a lot of IMG Academy, right? And for good reason. I mean, it's a powerhouse. But every time that defense is on the field, my eyes instantly go to number 12, and that's Ellis Robinson. I mean, he is everything you want in a new age cornerback. Over 6 foot, long arms, verified foot speed. Not a ton of footballs come his way. They haven't here during his senior season, but he's got a pick, and he shuts down one side of the field. I think he's a guy that can be ready to go day one.
Our number 2 player in the class debuted in the top spot. He is the number 1 quarterback out of Arizona, Dylan Raiola. He is also committed to the Dogs.
I think everybody wanted to know how Dylan Raiola was going to do when he transferred to Buford in Georgia, and I think he's responded. He has kind of played himself into the upper echelon of college football prospects. And listen, what I love about him, he's everything that you want. He's got an elastic arm. He can make every throw on the field. But he's taken care of the football this year. 14 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's been super efficient. I think this Buford offense actually lends to where he is going to play at Georgia in Mike Bobo's offense. He throws the deep ball better than any quarterback prospect I have seen in a long time. So Dylan Raiola, a lot of confidence in him, what he's done this season. And I like to say the arrow's pointing up. Everything we've seen at the Elite 11, senior tape as well. A lot to be excited about in Athens.
Friends, we have a new number 1. The top wide receiver in the class is now the top player, Jeremiah Smith. The Florida native is committed to Ohio State.
Generational talent, right? I mean, it's been fun to just see Jeremiah Smith's rise ever since he emerged on the recruiting scene as a youngster. He has morphed into a well-rounded cheat code on the offensive side of the ball. He's obviously got the size. I think what's scary about Jeremiah Smith is he's still maturing from a physical standpoint. Like, he's only going to get bigger and faster and stronger. Still a bully at the catch point, but his ability to pick up yardage after the catch is something we have noticed here as a senior. He's got 52 passes for 781 yards and 11 touchdowns in just 7 games, and he is constantly drawing double teams. Our first ever wide receiver there in the number 1 position, but we feel really good about Jeremiah Smith.
You said it. It's our breaking news. There is a new number 1. And for the first time in 24/7 Sports history, a wide receiver takes the top spot in our top 247 rankings. Jeremiah Smith is the number 1 player in the 2024 class as of today. Andrew, what makes this pass catcher so worthy of that historic top spot?
Well, Emily, I'm going to be honest, right? There's been a ton of debate behind the scenes really for almost a year now about this number 1 spot. And we've talked about different prospects. Dylan Raiola, his name's come up. Williams Nwaneri, his name has come up. But ultimately, I think we as a group, meaning the scouting department at 24/7 Sports, we feel the best about Jeremiah Smith settling and eventually one day being selected early on in the NFL draft. Now, the NFL draft serves as the compass for our rankings, and it's been a long time. 1996 was the last time a wide receiver went number 1 overall. That was Keyshawn Johnson. So this is a bit of an unprecedented move, but I think right now, with a couple months to go, a few more games and those all-star events, we feel the best about Jeremiah, being a top draft pick. And then you look at the NFL, it's becoming more and more of a passing league. Over the past 3 years, we've seen 21 wide receivers go in the first round. The highest one was Jamar Chase at number 5 overall. So we'll see how it shakes out. I mean, there's a chance Dylan Raiola could retake that number 1 position, but as it stands today, Jeremiah Smith is our guy. We feel very confident about him. You talk with college contacts, different industry sources. A lot of people agree, if Jeremiah Smith was in college right now, he'd be able to play at the Power 5 level and start for some programs.
I want to add on to what Andrew's saying there. I mean, I think this is more about Jeremiah Smith, the type of prospect that he is, and the conviction that we have in Jeremiah Smith and the live exposure that we've had as well. When you study the player, 6'3", over 200 pounds, this is a guy that can beat you in a multitude of ways. He understands how to use his size, how to use his strength at the point of attack. But the other thing, he's probably the best run after catch threat in the country. This guy is dynamic. He had 17 receptions against Bergen Catholic, a very respectable program earlier this year, for over 300 yards. You saw bracketing coverage. You saw double teams. They threw everything at him. They had no answers. Jeremiah Smith is different. That's why we went with him at number 1.
Speaking of a guy who is just different, DJ Lagway making his debut in the top 32, earning that 5th star. Not a huge surprise considering the way he started his senior season. Andrew broke it down for us. But he also jumps Elite 11 finals winner and Alabama quarterback commit Julian Sang. So what went into this quarterback evaluation?
He's gotten better and better every year. You look at him as a sophomore, 55, 57%. As a junior, 65% or 67%, excuse me. This year, 75% completion rate, 36 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, over 2,300 yards passing. And then you look at the athlete. Andrew mentioned earlier in the show, he could go play D1 college baseball if he wanted to. He is arguably the best playmaker at the position. I love everything DJ Lagway has to offer. We had some questions coming out the Elite 11. He has answered them this year. He was 10-10 as a starter before his senior season. He is 7-0 right now at Willis. DJ Lagway, he can get it done through the air, on the ground, whatever you want. He's going to need a little bit of seasoning once he gets to Gainesville, but he's the type of guy in a similar way Anthony Richardson was. You're going to see these flashes, and if he can put it together, I mean, this is the type of guy that one day could be the #1 top 5 draft choice in the NFL draft.
Certainly exciting.
And Kuba, I always say it. He's kind of, the lottery ticket with the monster payout. And I think we thought, all right, it's going to take some time. Now as a senior, it seems as if he's a little bit ahead of schedule. And speaking to the Julian Sayin versus DJ Lagway debate, I think for us, why we went with DJ Lagway right now at number 2 is the ceiling, what he could be. We saw it at the Elite 11 finals. I mean, Julian Sayin was lights out. He has the higher floor, but DJ Lagway, I mean, the good is really, really good. I mean, he can do some things that no other quarterback in this cycle can. So we'll see how it shakes out. Julian Sayin also having an excellent season out there in California. He is impressed. Creating, running the football as well. But right now, just that upside and what he can be is why DJ Lagway was number 2 for us.
Lagway certainly making it tough on you guys, but definitely a good problem to have. We also have a new #1 linebacker in the class, Justin Williams, jumping arguably maybe the best athlete in the class in Sammy Brown. Andrew, you have him at #1 on your freaks list. So what does that say about what the rankings team thinks of Justin Williams?
Well, it's kind of funny. I mean, Georgia wanted Sammy Brown, and, they were recruiting Justin Williams. But after Brown picked Clemson, that's when they turned up the heat on Justin Williams. And these guys I think, are going to be neck and neck, just like with Dylan Raiola and Jeremiah Smith and Williams Nwaneri. Who finishes #1 after the All-Star games? I think we're going to have that same conversation for the top linebacker spot between Justin Williams and Sammy Brown. Both these guys can run. Obviously, they have elite athletic profiles. They get the job done on both sides of the football. Just with Justin Williams, I think right now we just see a little bit of a higher ceiling than we do with Sammy Brown. Maybe there's some more developmental upside. I mean, he's going to Athens. He's going to play for Glenn Schumann, Will Muschamp, Kirby Smart. Like, those guys know what they're doing with linebackers, but that's not the reason why he's here. I said it before, just that ability to close gaps. Not many guys can do it. I think he's someone that can get on the field early on in his career in certain situations, and his calling card is the ability to mirror quarterbacks, right? And when they take off and run, stop them behind the line of scrimmage.
A lot of you are tuned in to watching this show right now, but not a lot of likes, so they're getting in my ear asking for me to ask you to hit that thumbs up button. We've got a new 5-star tackle in Jordan Seaton. He now makes 2 5-star offensive tackles, and it's a valuable position. I mean, just to put it into perspective, 5 were taken in this year's NFL draft, but just not a lot of depth at that position this year. Coop, what is it about Seaton in particular, though, that saw him rise over 50 spots in this latest ranking?
He's a guy who's had an excellent senior season. We talked about the importance of senior tape, and this is why Jordan Seaton is kind of the prime example of that. He is now at IMG Academy. He has completely transformed his body. Andrew's got a great story about him eating 1 peanut butter and jelly a day and then running a mile or something like that. But he looks great, and it showed up on the field. This is a guy that we originally had as an interior offensive lineman, now have as a tackle. Quick twitch, explosive. His ability to react and recover, especially at the second level. Super strong hands. He kind of looks like what we've seen at IMG before. I think Tyler Booker, who's now at Alabama, is probably the best comp for him. A guy that could play right tackle. We could see move inside at the next level, but this guy has gotten better and better, and I love him physically. I think he's going to be ready to play early at the next level.
Yeah, make sure you go check that out on 247sports.com. Eating a sandwich and going for a run. Whatever works, and it's clearly working for him. We got one more player who earned a 5th star we want to talk about, defensive lineman L.J. McCray. Andrew, he didn't just become a 5-star. He is now the number 6 player in the country, and you've watched him up close and personal. What did you see that warranted this huge rise?
He creates pressure on pretty much every snap. And with LJ McCray, I mean, the specs, the measurables have never been a question with him. I go back to a Under Armour camp in March. I tweeted out some video of him just doing drills in shirts and shorts. Next thing you know, I have college coaches from around the country hitting me up in the inbox. Hey, who is this kid? Where is this kid? Give me the contact info for this kid. And then you get into the junior tape, right? It's good, but only 3 sacks in 15 games. And LJ McCray, his father, as coach at the collegiate level. Normally, if dad's a head coach, you're pretty polished and you're producing. But he was going both ways, playing some tight end, catching passes. I mean, initially, when I found out about him when he was a freshman, he was talking about playing offense in college. Something has flipped a switch in his head. Now he views himself as a defender, and he just gets after the quarterback. He can blend speed and power. You know, he's 260 pounds. I think he could be 300 pounds and carry that weight very well. He's got the frame to do it. Just a guy we like a lot. Lateral burst. He's starting to pick up some pass rushing moves. I think he can add even more to the menu. I'm interested to see where he ends up. I think he fits at any of his 5 finalists, you know, Florida, Miami, FSU, Auburn, Georgia. You can mold him into whatever you want. And I think his best football is definitely ahead of him. It's not going to be 4 or 5 years till we see what LJ McCray can really be.
All right, I'm going to shock you both. The people have questions. They have submitted them in the chat, so we're going to answer a couple of them. This is for both of you, but Andrew, you can start with this one. How close was Luke Krummenhoek to making a 5-star status in this update?
Well, I saw that one come across the Slack channel.
You knew
24 hours before things went finalized, I was texting the scouting department about it. I was like, hey, just want everyone to marinate on this. I mean, he was right there. And ultimately, I mean, we watched a ton of his games. This is a guy coming out of the Elite 11 finals we really liked. Just not there just yet. And we're going to get him at the All-American Bowl in January. We're going to get a chance. And as a second-year starter, I think it's kind of expected. You know, Luke has some really wow throws, and then there's some head scratchers. So he's right there knocking on the door. And with our new setup, right, 32 5-stars right now, the last thing we want to do is move a guy in and then have to pull that away. So we decided to hold off for now. I think I don't have it in front of me, but he's got one of the higher grades for the guys outside of the top 32, and we'll see what happens. I mean, we have long been a fan. Ryan Tannehill is the comp, you know, former wide receiver, playing some quarterback. He has the tools. Just want to see how the senior season goes and then how he stacks up alongside some of the other quarterbacks in a padded setting.
I think Luke Krummenhoek, he's still trying to figure it out. When you watch the tape, you see the flashes, right? He can make every throw on the field. We loved him at the Elite 11, but it was a little bit of a roller coaster ride. And I think as Andrew kind of pointed out, I think the luxury for us is we get to see him in the postseason at the All-American Bowl. That is good on good, right? Guys like Lincoln Kienholz last year from South Dakota really stepped up in that environment. And I think a guy like Luke Krummenhoek is certainly going to have that opportunity to do the same thing. But if you're looking at guys outside of the top 32 that you're circled like, hey, I wonder if that guy should be in there, I think Luke Krummenhoek would probably be that guy, and I'm not the only one.
All right, we got one more question here. Coop, I'm going to let you start this one off. How are camps versus in-season play weighted for rankings? Which do you view as more important in the evaluation process?
Well, I think we talk about the NFL being our compass all the time, right? And I think the film is always the baseline, but a lot of what we do is projecting the athlete. Where are these guys going to be in 3 to 4 years, right? What is the environment that they are going to be in? It's hard to project guys like Justin Ross when you got him at 215 pounds, but you know in college on Saturdays, he's probably going to play around 240. We talk about the importance of senior tape all the time. That's the importance of that, right? You want to see how these guys are developing. They are 16, 17, 18 years old. Joseph Jonah Ajanye is a great case. From Nigeria originally, this is a guy that is still learning the game of football. He turned 17 in November, right? So the ceiling on him is not, he hadn't even scratched the surface of what he's going to be yet, but it's a great question. But those things come into balance a little bit. And I would say it's probably a case by case depending on the player.
I'll add here, I mean, I think any evaluation is valuable for us, right? We have the luxury. I mean, most of these schools don't get around these kids as much as we do. We can go see them play games. We can go see them in practice as many times as we want. We got the 7-on-7. We got the camps where they test and all that stuff. I think all that's important. All that is critical to the evaluation process. But the film is king, right? I mean, these senior season evaluations, we've talked about it. You can tell a lot. Now, I'm not just talking about the highlight tape. I'm talking about the full games. What does this guy look like for 60 snaps, right? We're not just looking at the 5 best snaps from the game. We're looking at the entire game. Does he play with a motor that runs hot? Is he playing in all 3 phases? I think the game, what they do in the pads is king, right? That is going to dictate a lot, because I think you can get lost in numbers so many times. Let's go back to the 2023 scouting combine, right? DJ Turner ran the fastest time, sub 4.3. We went back and looked when he went to high school. His fastest time, I think, was 4.69 on the lasers in the 40-yard dash. I think sometimes the data can be a little deceiving, but it helps supplement this entire evaluation, right? Hey, we think this guy's fast. What does he look like when he's actually playing people? Is he pulling away from them, or are people catching him? So the film is important, the testing's important, all of it's important, but at the end of the day, we want to see what they're going to do under the lights.
Thank you both. Cooper, you're not going anywhere, but thank you for your work towards these rankings. Thank you to our entire rankings team. I told you that this is a fun day for me. I know it's a fun day for people watching too, just to see the shuffling. But again, this is not the end. This is also not the extent of the rankings. Soon enough, you will find the full list of the top 247 players on our website on 247sports.com. We just revealed the top 32. Our rankings team has been hard at work ranking, again, the top 247. That means 247 players. So if you're curious where the other 215 land, you can check that out soon enough at 247sports.com. It's time now for the Wiltfong Whip Around with our Director of Recruiting, Steve Wiltfong, joining the show now. Steve, you just saw the new list of 5 stars, and now it is time to find out where the 5 uncommitted guys are leaning, which is why we bring you in. You've got Ryan Wingo, LJ McCray, Aydin Breland, Elijah Rushing, and Jordan Seaton. So what can you tell us about those guys?
Well, Ryan Wingo, I like the way it's trending for Missouri right now. There was a time early in this recruitment where I liked Tennessee, pivoted to Georgia, back to Tennessee, then Texas, then Mizzou, then Texas again. But coming off a visit to Missouri this past weekend where I saw Luther Burden, Mookie Cooper, and we saw play well, that offense, Coach Peeler's track record, I think they've overtaken Texas right now in that recruitment. LJ McCray, he just texted me. He's got a decision date for October 21st, so he's going to come off the board in a couple Saturdays. Now, talking to LJ, talking to people with knowledge of the recruitment close to him, talking to the schools, people around the schools, Auburn, Florida, Florida State, Miami, Georgia. I think everybody feels like he could go any of those directions. Now, maybe I give the inch to Georgia, but I'm not sleeping on any of these other programs, particularly Florida State coming off an official visit to Tallahassee this past weekend. He's seen Florida State play twice this year. But Florida, that's another school that he's been on their campus so many times going back to middle school. So it'll be interesting to see where LJ McCray settles. I'm nowhere close to putting a crystal ball on that one. I am close to putting a crystal ball in favor of Oregon for Aydin Breland, the 5-star defensive lineman from California. But Georgia and Miami still battling there. But I like the Ducks as I talk to you guys right now. Also love the Ducks for Elijah Rushing, the 5-star defensive lineman from Arizona, recently decommitted from the Wildcats. Oregon been working that one behind the scenes for a while. I think they're the overwhelming leader right now. We'll see if any other schools can change that. And I talked to Jordan Seaton this afternoon about his recruitment, newly minted 5-star. I still think Alabama's the program that's got the edge right now, but recent visits to Florida and Tennessee are giving the Crimson Tide everything they got. Ohio State's way in that one. He's going to be back in Columbus for an official visit for the Michigan State game. That's going to be a big visit weekend for the Buckeyes. And then Colorado, Deion Sanders and his staff are working hard there. And Miami and Oregon are still alive for Jordan Seaton as well. So LJ McCray and Jordan Seaton are kind of the toughest ones for me to peg of those 5 right now.
Steve, those aren't the only uncommitted blue chip prospects. You got guys like Kobe Black, Xavier Mincy out there as well. What's the latest on them?
Well, Kobe Black still loved Texas there as they try and put together another top recruiting class. They've done a fabulous job recruiting the defensive side of the ball. There's no buzz out there that indicates that anyone's overtaken Texas. Texas A&M has tried LSU in there, but like Texas for Kobe Black. Xavier Mincy, you certainly got the big 3 from in-state. Talking to some people over at Mainland this morning, they say Miami has really risen up with him. But Florida's always been at or near the top of his list. Florida State in the season they're having, his experiences in Tallahassee. And then don't sleep on Alabama for Xavier Mincy, too. He's going to take an official visit there. And the Crimson Tide, their defensive back track record, put them in a good spot. Three more guys, Jamari Howard, the top 100 defensive back from Miami. I still like my Florida State crystal ball for him. Jericho Johnson's a top 247 defensive lineman from out west, one of my favorite players on the interior this cycle. I would give the edge to Oregon right now. He's going to be at the Oregon-Washington game this weekend. More on that later. The USC was his dream school growing up, so don't sleep on the Trojans. Utah rounds out the top four, but I think Oregon has set the pace for Jericho after having him on campus for the win over Colorado, and they have their official in the back pocket. And then Daniel Hill, top 247 running back, big riser for you guys. Alabama, South Carolina, and Tennessee, the final three there. Talked to his dad today. Decision expected soon. No question, his parents love Alabama, his dad particularly. The kid, Daniel, I think he's been high on South Carolina, close to committing to South Carolina one other time. Now he certainly really likes Alabama. The official visit to Tennessee 2 weekends ago was a needle mover. We'll see what happens here if South Carolina can pull out another big blue chip recruiting win, or if it's same old story for Alabama.
All right, you said more on Washington and Oregon in a bit. How about we do that now? I have to imagine there'll be quite a few prospects headed to Seattle this weekend. Who are some of the big names that are embarking on Husky Stadium?
Yeah, Washington hosting close to 50 prospects this weekend, and over 40 of them have a scholarship offer already from Kalen DeBoer and his staff. And they don't really hand those out like candy either. So prioritized recruits coming to campus, a big deal. Husan Longstreet's a top 247 quarterback, number 4 quarterback in the country in our 2025 rankings. Washington's one of the schools recruiting him the hardest. Talking to him, talking to his dad this week, they pointed to Washington's number 1 offense, number 1 scoring offense, number 1 passing offense. Michael Penix being a Heisman candidate. Lot to like there going into that visit. Jericho Johnson, I think they got to make up ground, but no better opportunity to make up ground against the team you're trying to make up ground with by beating them on Saturday in front of your eyes. Keanu Wilhite from Arizona, Elijah Rushing's teammate, also recently reopened his recruitment. He told me that Washington is the program to beat going into this visit, but they're going to have to hold off UCLA. The Bruins are certainly in there as well. And then Jason Brown's a top 247 running back from Seattle that's going to be on campus. Right now, I really like where Oregon stands there. But Washington, they got a ton of young 2025s, 2026s coming to campus that already have an offer. No better atmosphere or environment to get those guys' recruitments off and running with a great impression of your program, that culture, what that environment's going to be like, and then potentially a massive win in a game that has major college playoff implications.
Steve, Tennessee is coming off a big win against South Carolina. They got Texas A&M coming into Neyland Stadium this weekend. 2025 quarterback George McIntyre, one of the best in the business, will be there. How are the Vols standing right now with George McIntyre?
Yeah, our number 2 ranked quarterback. He recently put out his top 10. I think Tennessee's been closer to the top of the list for much of the cycle. You start talking about programs like Alabama, LSU, Tennessee. I think those are the 3 that I say first as the programs that have the best chance to land George McIntyre. And he said to me in the past, just being an in-state kid, he can definitely see the buzz around the program. He loves this passionate fan base, and he just feels the energy from them. Visited there multiple times this spring and summer. His offense at Brentwood Academy has some of the things that they do at Tennessee, so he feels comfortable. Loves the explosive offense, and is really connected with Coach Heupel and company. You know, this is a big time blue chip battle. It's not going to be easy for Tennessee, but we've seen them win major quarterback recruiting battles under this staff already, and they're going to try and do it again with George McIntyre.
All right, that's a number 2 quarterback. How about the number 1 quarterback? He is off to LSU this weekend. So what's the latest on Bryce Underwood's recruitment, but also his busy visit schedule this fall?
Yeah, 5-star Central at LSU this weekend, and highlighting perhaps the most coveted recruit of the bunch, quarterback Bryce Underwood, who's been paying close attention to this Tigers program, loves the development he's seen from Jaden Daniels from the first year he got there to what he's doing this year. You know, Joe Sloan, the lead recruiter there for LSU, has done a fabulous job of building a relationship with Bryce and his family. They've been to campus for 2 extended visits already. He's attended a class at LSU. He's set up shop inside that football facility, watched a lot of film with that staff. And so they're very familiar with LSU right now. This is an opportunity to get down there and see a game for the first time, and not only see a game, guys, but see a night game in Death Valley. They picked a good one against Auburn. It's going to be a major recruiting weekend. Night games are special there. They're hoping to make a big impression because they're battling Michigan. Colorado's starting to make a move in this recruitment. Penn State, he went to the whiteout at Penn State, so you're trying to match one of the best atmospheres in college football in Happy Valley down there this weekend in Death Valley. So we'll see if they're up for the challenge there. But LSU's always been one of his favorites. I could definitely see him playing at LSU, and here's another opportunity for them to gain some more inches in that recruitment.
Steve, big opportunity for North Carolina and Mac Brown this weekend. They got Miami coming to town, limping in, but they also have the #1 prospect in the class of 2025 coming to campus as well. That is David Sanders. What's the latest with David Sanders in North Carolina?
Well, he got a chance to camp there over the summer where he got to work with offensive line coach Randy Clements, and that was something David Sanders wasn't afraid to do at any place this summer. He got out and camped at a lot of places so he could get a feel for coaching styles of these respective offensive line coaches that he's considering playing for. And Coach Clements made an impression on him. And now the season that North Carolina is having, they're undefeated. It's going to be a great atmosphere in Chapel Hill. North Carolina is pretty much done recruiting 2024, so it's all hands on deck for 2025. There's a bunch of top 247 prospects on campus, but obviously David Sanders, target numero uno. There's stiff competition: Georgia, Clemson, Alabama, Tennessee, Ohio State, Michigan, some of the other schools that he's certainly high on, Florida State. But North Carolina with the chance to continue to show him that this is a program that he can accomplish everything he wants to accomplish as a player. He's also a terrific student, so North Carolina certainly boasts strong academics in that regard as well.
Real quick before I let you go, I got a very interesting viewer question from Andrew. He wants to know if the Ducks pull off a shocker and get Breland and Rushing and then get Jericho Johnson, would that be the top defensive line class in the nation?
Well, is that a shocker? That's a good question for Cooper. Cooper put out a great article today where with Florida as his #1 defensive line class in the country, and I agree with that. But certainly, I think Cooper might have to get the eraser out if Oregon goes out there and lands Aydin Breland, Jericho Johnson, and Elijah Rushing, because those are certainly championship caliber talents there that Dan Lanning and company are trying to bring. Their coach knows what it looks like. He helped build that historic defense at Georgia and call it. Now they're at Oregon. They're in the mix for these kind of recruits. They're on the cusp of playing in those kind of games. Georgia did. But certainly, I think if Oregon closes out those guys, that's the #1 defensive line class in the country, right, Coop?
I agree wholeheartedly. You look at Florida too, right? Amaris Williams, Nasir Johnson, Jamonte Waller. But here's the thing, Oregon, if they can get 2 pass rushers inside the top 15 of our rankings, that's saying a lot. But the Jericho Johnson kid, don't sleep on him. It's starting to feel like a little bit of Georgia out west in Eugene. It's just got that feel. Typically, you would talk about Florida, you would talk about Georgia, but it's Oregon, Dan Lanning, and the Ducks. I mean, to be able to do that in that footprint, that is the way. Aydin Breland right there in modern day in California, if they're able to get that done, right? Elijah Rushing in Arizona would be a big one. Jericho Johnson in California. The first thing you have to do if you're Oregon, you want to win a national championship, you got to keep these type of dudes home. If they can do that, that's going to go a long way for the Ducks.
Love that.
There's
Steve
not
goes,
many guys like
shocking.
that out west.
No.
Not many guys like that out west, particularly Jericho Johnson, high motor, two-way player, as coveted as any of those guys out there for any of those programs.
That's a great question, Andrew. Thank you for setting that one up. Steve, thanks for being on the show. A reminder, you can catch hit the like button while you're here. Previous Wiltfong Whip-Arounds on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. I highly recommend you hit that subscribe button or else you might miss what's happening this weekend. Aydin Breland is committing right here on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. That is Saturday at 2:30 Eastern. The number 11 player in the class. He is picking between Miami, Georgia, and Oregon. We're going to be on that commitment. Very much looking forward to that commitment coming up on Saturday. That's the next thing that we have to do. Before I let you go, I got to let you know that there's a pretty exciting thing happening on Friday night at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. So if you're on the West Coast, it's probably more your speed because we got a massive showdown on the West Coast. The #1 team in the nation in modern day is playing the #9 team in St. John Bosco, and our friends at Max Preps will have the radio call of that game, and so we'll get to see some of the five-star prospects that we just broke down. There's a lot from those two schools, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, we talked about Aydin Breland, but here's the thing. Elijah Brown, committed to Stanford.
Yeah.
I mean, all that guy does is win. St. John Bosco, if you know anything about West Coast football, this is what it's supposed to look like. This is the game. Everybody gets their popcorn out. Modern day Bosco. It's the game of the year.
Yeah, you can see more information about how to listen to that game on maxpreps.com. Cooper, thank you and the entire rankings team again for making this show possible. We love to see it. Hope you did too. Hit that like button on the way out. Make sure you are subscribed to the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. He's Cooper Patagna. I'm Emily Proud, and this is the College Football Recruiting Show.